The dulcet tones of Mike Florio, the host of PFT Live, the creator of Pro Football Talk and ProFootballTalk.com, and the author of Playmakers, which comes out next week, where all books are sold, but you can get it and pre-order it right now where all books are sold. You go on Amazon, you get 20% off. Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's jump into it here.
Hey, is it a bad sign that they're already offering it for 20% off before it's even out? Somebody asked me that. I was like, well, I don't know. I just want them to sell, whatever it takes. All that matters to me. I got my advance. I just want them to sell at this point.
Mike, you're talking to somebody whose 2007 book could have been acquired in a dollar store by 2008. So you're in good shape.
All right, good.
You're in good shape.
Good.
You're in great shape.
I still have it. I found it on the shelf. I still have it.
What, my
Total
book?
Access.
My
Still
book.
have it.
Yes, it's quite the tone. It's so dated now. It's insane. It was about a 2-day draft and the Hall of Fame that was just barely in their new stadium. It's crazy how fast things move.
And it wasn't even
now.
a nighttime draft in 2007.
Correct. Yeah, it was just a 2-day draft back in the day. So let's just hop right into it. And what's going on with the Packers and how this all came together, best you can tell.
Well, something that I sent you just minutes before we found out about the Rodgers contract, and something that dawned on me this morning on PFT Live. The tremendous leverage that Aaron Rodgers had over the Packers with that cap number of $46.66 million, second only to Matt Ryan, who has a $47 million cap number, and the Packers are projected to be, or were, as the case may be, $30 million over the cap for 2022. They needed to either dump all of his salary, $26 million and change, by trading him, or dramatically reduce that cap number from the salary, reduce the salary, signing bonus, etc., spread it out over time. They needed to do one or the other by next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, when all teams have to be in compliance with the cap. So they really needed Aaron to do something, and if he wanted to push this thing all the way to the limit, he could have just said, I'm fine with my contract. I'm ready to honor my contract. And I think that leverage helped him get this deal that is either 4 years, $200, or 5 years, $224. We'll get the details soon, and the devil is always in the details. You hear different bits and pieces, but until you can actually dig into the numbers, it's impossible to know what it all means. But it's going to be the richest contract in NFL history, and I think it's going to have the flexibility that he can walk away whenever he wants without a major financial penalty.
For him or for the team is what you're saying?
For him.
Right?
For him.
Okay, for him.
Now, and it could just be they take the signing bonus and they defer the payments into future years, so he doesn't have to go through that awkward step of paying money back. But whatever the case may be, they're trying to set it up, I believe, from what I've heard, as him having full flexibility to walk away whenever he wants and not have that sort of Damocles financially hanging over his head.
Or he can play it out all the way through, and he has 22 years with the Packers, which is an incredible number. And certainly since we thought 22, the number would be the league year in which he would have to be gone, because it was Jordan Love's job for sure. The Packers were absolutely going to go to him, and back-to-back MVP years after Jordan Love gets drafted changes everything. It's amazing. It really is amazing how this thing is flipped.
I've never seen a draft pick light a fire under someone's ass the way that the Jordan Love pick did with Aaron Rodgers. And, it's funny. I wonder how much of that was intentional, because I know the year before, when Tyler Dunn was still at Bleacher Report, and he had the article about all the dysfunction between Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, it was Mark Murphy, the CEO of the team, who said either in that article or after the fact, if this lights a fire for some people, good. And it worked. They had a great year in 2019. They got to the NFC Championship game, and I just can't help but wonder whether there's a little mad scientist / puppet master from Murphy with this Love thing, because we're covered either way. Either Love is going to become our next guy, or Rodgers is going to have a fire lit under his ass, and we're going to get great performance out of him, and that's where they are. And now they have to figure out what to do with Jordan Love. Well,
what do you think? He's gone, right? They have to, because Dunn is the agent who did this deal for Rodgers. It now has to turn to Love, right, and say what about him?
Here's the best litmus test. If Nathaniel Hackett, the former offensive coordinator of the Packers and now the head coach of the Broncos, does or doesn't want Jordan Love after 2 years with him, and if Hackett doesn't make a play for him, that is the red flag for anyone else out there who doesn't have a pre-existing relationship with Jordan Love, because that means this guy's not ready. Now, I think the Broncos are probably going to aim higher as they move on from Aaron Rodgers. Maybe they try to make a run at Russell Wilson. Maybe they go after I don't know where you go after Russell Wilson on that list. I think it's a long drop from him to Jimmy G. But, at some point you have to consider the possibility of Jordan Love if Nathaniel Hackett thinks he's got the goods. And if they go straight after Jordan Love, then the message is, hey, maybe this guy can play. And we know the Broncos are otherwise set up to have a competitive team.
Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show. And let's talk about how Rodgers' decision affects the quarterback carousel. It slows considerably, right? Don't you think?
Well, but we were waiting for him to make his views known. And what it does now, it clears him off the table so these other teams that are looking for quarterbacks can start making their plans and implementing their plans if the Broncos are indeed willing to give the Seahawks a phone call. And I think Russell Wilson's in play. I think last week when Pete Carroll says we have no intention to trade Russell Wilson, the exact same thing Rick Spielman said 9 years ago about Percy Harvin right before he traded Percy Harvin to the Seahawks. No intention to trade is a signal. We're not trading him under any set of circumstances means we're not trading him. We have no intention to trade him means if you want to give us a call and make us an offer, then maybe you can change our intention. And I think that he is in play. I think the Seahawks realize that they're either going to trade him now or next year they're going to choose between trading him or giving him a high-end market value contract because he always does his next deal with 1 year left on his current one. So it won't surprise me if the Broncos turn to Russell Wilson or whoever else would have been thinking about Aaron Rodgers pivots to Russell Wilson. And you got some of these other guys out there whose value goes up now. Jimmy G's value goes up. Mitch Trubisky, we've been hearing all this talk about him, all of a sudden swooping in and being a starting quarterback somewhere. I think that to the extent the Vikings are ambivalent about Kirk Cousins and who really knows how they feel, maybe he's in play for a trade now that you take Aaron Rodgers off the market. So I think it's going to create a greater demand for some of these veteran quarterbacks, especially with the perception that the draft class at quarterback isn't as strong as it's been in recent years.
Well, and on that said, Mike Florio, it was 1 week ago at this time, I'm holding in my hands on very nice Kyler Murray stationery, the greatest agent manifesto since Jerry Maguire's. And now we look to the gram and we see all of Kyler Murray's missing posts that were removed returned. They're back. I guess he did, in fact, archive them.
Wow.
He did, in fact, archive them, or he's got an intern that had to put them all back on his Instagram page. So what do you think of what's going on with Arizona? What is going on with Arizona and Kyler Murray?
I think last week when they announced the new deals for Coach Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim, and they run through 2027 in theory, some of that may not be guaranteed. We never heard how much Kingsbury's making, and if there's any chest thumping to do about the amount of a contract, the agent usually finds a way to do it either directly or by leaking it. So that's a sign that it's not top of market or close to it. But once you make the bed with Cliff Kingsbury, you're compelled to keep Kyler Murray because the common thread between the two guys is the agent. So I think by extending Kingsbury, that's laying the foundation to do a deal with Murray, and maybe he has been sufficiently placated that something's going to be done. Now, I saw someone suggest recently, and I can't remember who it was because I always like to give credit where credit's due, the idea that if this thing's going to blow up, it needs to blow up before free agency and the draft, that he wants to be traded at a time when he can jump on the quarterback carousel, especially now that you take Aaron Rodgers off of it. If he's not going to stay in Arizona, let's do it now. Let's not screw around and have an impasse drive us apart later. But if he's put that stuff back on Instagram, I mean, to the extent it was significant that it was gone, it's significant that it's back. And we know that's how 24-year-olds send messages. So I think that's significant. It tells me he's heard something from the Cardinals that makes him think they're going to get him taken care of.
Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's get to Calvin Ridley, which would have been the topic du jour for this entire news cycle on Peacock and every other sports talk radio / television network. I'll give you the floor on what you thought of that, the suspension of Calvin Ridley.
I was stunned by the duration of the suspension based upon the conduct that he admitted. It was stupid, it was dumb, it was avoidable. You don't make bets with your own phone. And it makes me wonder how many guys out there are making bets through a friend, never having their fingerprints on it directly, but just giving cash to the friend or taking cash from the friend if the bets are successful. Only 5 guys in NFL history have been suspended for gambling. Surely more guys have done it than that. I just hope that the NFL eventually because there will be, and eventually there will be other scandals, whether it's people gambling when they shouldn't or mishandling of inside information, whether it's truth about injuries, game plans, first 15 scripted plays, anything that would be sensitive in the wrong hands. People taking that and turning that into cash, even without betting. Just the fact that you're taking money or something else of value from someone who wants that information. These are things the NFL has to guard against. And I hope that they just don't look for someone that they can point to and say, we nailed this guy. Because Ridley fell into their lap. I've been saying all day, it's not like they're walking around with the big Sherlock Holmes magnifying glass.
Right.
It fell into their lap. How aggressive are they going to be looking for others? How aggressive are they going to be enforcing rules regarding the use of inside information? How aggressive are they going to be about the injury report, which is worthless at this point? Tom Brady played all of 2020 with a torn MCL in his knee, and they hit it the whole year. That's where the risk also lies for the NFL. And also on top of everything else, what do you do about Stephen Ross? If you're going to suspend Calvin Ridley for a full year because he placed a few parlays and always bet on his team to win, what do you do about the owner who allegedly offered his coach $100,000 per game that he lost?
See, it's not that he bet on them to win. It's the fact that he bet on them at all. Like, and again,
no, I agree. But I'm just saying, Ross is telling his coach to lose.
No.
You can't ignore that situation.
That's what I'm saying for sure. And I am waiting to hear what comes of that investigation. And because to me, if I'm seeing videos out there, and I saw them on Twitter, I think a member of our media world erased his posting of a video of Calvin Ridley, oddly running out of bounds or stop running towards an end zone in weird ways, just weird situations of Calvin Ridley on the field. And that is now, in light of all this, thought to be maybe, a Donaghy moment for the NFL in a way. That if that is what we're seeing and how harmful that is, I mean, and the league knows how harmful that is. How harmful is it to have an owner say, I'm offering you 6 figures to lose games? That's beyond significant. And you even said that you were surprised at how, strident Roger Goodell sounded when the subject was brought up during the Super Bowl at his press conference.
Well, and the other subject that Roger Goodell addressed regarding the latest allegations against Daniel Snyder as to workplace misconduct, the notion that teams can't be trusted to investigate themselves. At what point do we say the league may not be able to investigate itself when there's a scandal that would be sufficiently harmful to the league if it's proven to be true? Is Stephen Ross, if this is true, is it in the league's interest to stand up and tell the world, hey, one of our owners was engaged in the kind of corruption that entailed him telling the team to lose and undermining the legitimacy of the games and undermining the legitimacy of the bets, and we're going to open ourselves up to a class action brought by anyone who bet on the Dolphins in any of the jurisdictions where wagering was legal in 2019, either bet on them to win straight up or bet on them to cover the spread. Go ahead and sue us because we're giving you the roadmap to proving that we're liable. At what point does the league, and I don't know how it handles this because there's no third-party oversight. And, Rich, I really think that's where this ends up, some way, somehow. There's going to be a scandal in one of the major sports that is in bed with the sports books at some point over the next 5, 10, 15 years that results in Congress creating a federal agency that oversees pro sports the same way the Securities and Exchange Commission oversees stock trading. I think it's inevitable. It's just going to take one scandal to light the fuse to get Congress to do it.
What's your thoughts before I let you go on who the first overall pick of the draft is? I have Daniel Jeremiah coming up next hour. I'm going to ask him the same thing. Coming out of the combine, what do you think?
Well, I'll defer to him, but it sure sounds like it's going to be one of these tackles. Look, if the quarterbacks aren't there at the top, then it's either the guys who affect the quarterbacks or the guys who protect the quarterbacks. That's your next most important job, because once you have a quarterback, and we saw it with Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl, they didn't have a guy to protect him. The Rams had a guy to affect him. And when Jamar Chase was running wide open down the right sideline because his feet got tied up with Jalen Ramsey and Ramsey fell down, Burrow couldn't get the ball to him because he was swallowed up by Donald. So, again, it depends on what the Jaguars' priority is. But if you want the most out of Trevor Lawrence, you got to be looking at one of those tackles.
So I guess now with Rodgers, with his decision, it's like what, the J.C. Jackson where he goes, Tyrann Mathieu? I mean, like, is that the
when Tom Brady makes his power play to go back to the 49ers. That's what we got to do next. We got an interest in, getting people interested in clicking and reading and watching. Tom Brady, the 49ers. That's my next point.
Well, as all of Rich Eisen Show great ideas are born, we just winged it yesterday here on the program. We came up with a new segment called the TB12 Heat Check. From 0 to 12. 0 is he's running lines and doing jello shots at Rita Moreno's house. He's got no shot coming back, like he's not even thinking about it. And 12 is he's definitely coming back. Where are you right now, Mike Florio, on the TB12 Heat Check
11.997. I go back and look at his. Oh yeah, look, he retired from the Buccaneers. He didn't retire from the NFL. He retired from the Buccaneers. And I know Bruce Arians is trying to create the idea that they're not going to let him go to another team and they want 5 first-round picks. It's not Bruce's call. I think that Tom Brady makes the call to someone named Glazer and explains, I came there under a 2-year contract. I signed a 1-year extension last year for cap purposes. I fulfilled my 2 years. Please let me go. Please let me continue my career where I want to. And it's going to be hard for the Buccaneers to push back against that. And I think he wants to go to the 49ers.
So what was that? 11,997.
You were what? You were like 11,999.
That's what I said.
It's kind of like Price is Right.
I don't want to go all the way 11,999. 11,997. Just allow a little bit. A little
wiggle.
I really do. When you look at everything he's saying, and he started this, they can't blame us. They can blame us for a lot of stuff, right? They can't blame us for this. 6 days after he retired, he goes, never say never on his podcast, and he says, I don't know how I'm going to feel in June, which reminded me eerily of what Brett Favre said to David Letterman in April of 2008, which made me think that he was coming back, something along the lines of something's bound to happen when training camp rolls around. And I feel like Tom Brady cannot walk away. 5,000 passing yards, and he said before, I don't want to turn on the TV and see a bunch of guys playing, and I say, wow, they suck, I can do it better. And the only way he's going to avoid that this year is either to come back or not watch football at all.
And then what better way to just reassert his dominance, right, than with Rodgers and his $50 million a year contract. He comes back and does it. But
49ers are a Super Bowl favorite if he goes there. Are they not?
Well, I think so are the Bucs, don't you think? I mean, pretty much anybody where he goes. I know obviously we need to see how the Bucs handle free agency and things of that nature, but don't you think? I mean, just add Tom and suddenly he's definitely makes a team a Super Bowl contender.
Well, I think there's a handful of teams, but I think the 49ers are an even better Super Bowl contender with him because look at how good they've been with a guy who's a major step down. And let's be fair. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is good enough to start, and he'll probably start for someone this year and be the difference between 4-13 and 8-9. But he's not a Super Bowl winner. He's not a championship-level quarterback. Brady on that 49ers team, and I'm sure the 49ers regret saying no to him 2 years ago. He was their first choice, and they said no thank you. This is their chance to rectify that and finally get Kyle Shanahan a Super Bowl trophy.
Well, I appreciate you. You're the first guest to take part in the new segment, TB12 Heat Check. So thank you for lending some legitimacy to this inanity. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Good talking to you.
Take care. Good luck on the book that comes out next week. I'm more than happy to have you back on when it comes out. I'll help whatever and any way I can. Appreciate it. That's Mike Florio. Oh, there he goes. There's Mike Florio, everybody. Amazon, you get it now for 20% off. Playmakers.
Done. Sold.
What, the Heat Check or his book?
Both.
Okay, very good. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.